Here is a pictorial depiction of the culture of the 1960s. In the midst of the social change of the 1960s and following, many groups came forward to demand attention. They were pressuring the government to protect them from unfair and unjust social forces. Some of these were great causes, others would have negative consequences throughout the years to come. One man, however, wanted to make sure that within all of this clamor, a quieter foundation was not neglected. In the 1960s, as various groups of American people were fighting for influence in the culture and representation in the government, James Dobson took a stand to ensure that the traditional family also had a voice. Many know him for his radio broadcasts at Focus on the Family and Family Talk with Dr. James Dobson. Others might know him through the many books he has authored, still others for his work through Family Research Council in Washington, D.C. Most recently, many associate Dr. James Dobson with his controversial stand on Colorado's same-sex marriage law. We will discuss these topics in more detail shortly as we examine 2 ways James Dobson took a stand for the family: strengthening individual families and establishing legislature that supports the traditional family's recognition in government. Before we go on, let's get to know Dr. Dobson just a little bit better. He was born on April 21st, 1936, and was raised as an only child, mostly by his mother. His father was an enthusiastic evangelist. Dobson said, "I had a very close family. I don't want to imply that there was any lack of commitment there, but my dad was also committed to evangelism." Dr. Dobson earned a PhD in child development at the University of Southern California, otherwise known as USC. He worked at the USC School of Medicine for 14 years. He also worked for 17 years at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles in the Division of Child Development and Medical Genetics. His passion for the family was already making him a popular speaker, and he found himself working a full-time job during the week and traveling to various speaking engagements on the weekends. Around this time, James Dobson's father brought his attention to the fact that Dr. Dobson's kids were growing farther and farther away from him. And if Dr. Dobson didn't do something about it, he would lose them. "I was making the same mistake, and my father, who had always had so much influence on me, wrote me a letter and said, 'You're going to lose your kids,'" explains Dobson. "That really jerked me back, and so I quit the hospital largely to start an organization for radio so that I could get the message out about what I cared about without traveling." He left the Children's Hospital and the USC School of Medicine to start Focus on the Family. He aired the first radio broadcast on March 26, 1977. Now that we have a bit of background, let's dig a little deeper into those proofs. First, let's talk about how James Dobson strengthened the individual family. In an interview in 2001, Dr. Dobson talked about his concerns. The U.S. Census Bureau has come out with several findings in regards to the American family in the 1990s. Households headed by unmarried partners grew by almost 72%. Households headed by single mothers or fathers increased by 25% and 62% respectively. And for the first time ever, nuclear families dropped below 25% of all households. 33% of all babies were born to unmarried women, compared to only 3.8% in 1940. In an interview with Pastor Greg Laurie, Dr. Dobson says,
"What is your greatest passion?"
Well, it's the same passion, Greg, but it is through the family. The family is like the red blood cell in the body. It carries a globule of oxygen, and the family carries the oxygen of the body, oxygen to the body, having to do with the gospel. And so that is what I'm trying to do, is to use the family, strengthen the family, support the family, and therefore pass on the gospel of Jesus Christ to others.
Focus on the Family has the intent of helping people with home and money problems. Dobson believes that the way to strengthen the society is to strengthen the family. In the interview with Greg Laurie, he also said, "Most of what I teach is an outgrowth of traditional Christian concepts with regard to the family and home. I get a great deal of satisfaction in feeling used by God in the lives of people. I don't find my work stressful at all. In fact, I'm having the time of my life." Finally, he took a stand by writing many books to help put broken families back together. Dr. Dobson has written 36 books in total, including Bringing Up Boys, Bringing Up Girls, The Strong-Willed Child, What Wives Wish Their Husbands Knew About Women, When God Doesn't Make Sense, and many more. One of Dobson's books, Dare to Discipline, has alone sold over more than 4.5 million copies. In addition, it was rebound and placed in the White House Library, one of only 50 books in that collection. He also started Family Talk and Focus on the Family to reach out to families in need. During his time at Focus on the Family, his daily radio program was broadcast in more than a dozen languages and on over 7,000 stations worldwide, and was heard by more than 220 million people in 164 countries every day. Did these efforts make a difference? Many would say yes. In addition to influencing the individual family, James Dobson has also been instrumental in the traditional family's recognition in government. For the purposes of this documentary, traditional family is simply defined as a family with a mother, a father, and any children they have together, whether by birth or adoption. James Dobson has been active in governmental affairs and has advised 3 U.S. presidents on family matters. Even sources such as the New York Times recognize Dr. Dobson's role in George W. Bush winning the presidential election in 2004. In the same interview, Greg Laurie says, he has served on multiple government advisory panels and testified at government hearings as well. He has had a close relationship with many of our presidents, including President Reagan, President Bush I, and President Bush II. Dr. Dobson's stand has started a spark that is spreading, and if people really want change, they could have a great influence. Dobson felt the need to have headquarters in Washington, D.C., so he started Family Research Council in 1983. Some of their greatest achievements were that they worked for the successful overturning of Houston's infamous bathroom bill in November 2015. They redirected over $1.1 billion in tax dollars to pregnancy care centers and abstinence education instead of Planned Parenthood. Twice they helped Congress pass a bill banning partial birth abortion and influenced the Supreme Court's decision to uphold the ban in 2007. And they helped develop the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act that defined man and woman marriage as the norm in federal law. One specific matter when he stood for the traditional family was Colorado's Amendment 2 in 1992. Dr. Dobson himself describes the amendment as adopted by Colorado voters in 1992. The legislation forbade local governments from classifying homosexuals as a protected class of people in regards to employment and housing. Amidst bitter debate, it was struck down in 1996 and deemed unconstitutional in a condemning and outrageously worded opinion by the U.S. Supreme Court. In a disturbing quote, Dr. Dobson explains, "During the conflict in Colorado over the Amendment 2 initiative, I was the target of great venom. During that period, our buildings were spray painted with bigoted slogans. We received death threats and telephone bomb warnings. Bloody animal parts were brought to the front of the headquarters building, and a mock funeral found its way onto our property." In conclusion, James Dobson has lived his life taking a stand for the traditional family. He has done this through strengthening the individual family and establishing legislature that supports the traditional family's recognition in government.
Has he had influence? The answer is undoubtedly yes.
The vast number of people who have listened to his broadcasts and read his books show his influence. The numerous policies he has effected in the government show that influence.
Influence is virtually undebatable. However, has his influence been positive? Many would again say yes, as many testimonies would show. But I would argue that even if you vehemently disagree with his positions, his stand should still be valued.
True progressives will want to say, as the French philosopher Voltaire once did, "I may disagree with what you say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it."